And a lot of support we've received from United Nations Development Program, UN Technology Bank, then Google SDG, Microsoft, University of Toronto, and others, including my Forbes 30 under 30 that I got was also in social impact. So this creates a lot of social impact, and we've been really frequently recognized for the social impact area.
Hi, and welcome to another video of Ledger Nation. Today with Abhishek, who I met during actually an influencer training. We're both trying to become business influencers, and I wanted to invite him because he has a very impressive career in the blockchain space. He has his own blockchain startup in India. Previously, he has also worked for an Indian unicorn. And I'm very excited to welcome him today on Ledger Nation.
Thank you, Maria. It has been amazing to speak with you and to be in a same program with you, and looking forward to this today.
Perfect. So Abhishek, maybe we can kick it off with you introducing yourself and your career going towards your blockchain journey.
Sure. So I entered the blockchain domain about 6 years back. It was very academical at the beginning, writing, reading, and publishing, and then gradually went on to teaching other people, and I loved doing it. Then gradually I did my first startup in blockchain. It was we carried it on for about 1.5 years, and we were working on a few solutions. We had to later shut it down. And now what I'm doing at this moment is my third startup, but second in blockchain, and which has been running since the last about 2.5, 3 years with a live product in the market. And not only is it just, like any of the startups I did before, but this is for the first time I'm able to see that a complicated technology like blockchain can also help a segment that is very non-tech savvy, such as the farmers. So we help farmers. Basically, my current work is about helping farmers take loans in real time and very low cost loans from the system, from banks and DeFi capital. So that's largely what I do. In my free time, I'm very passionate about teaching people, and that's also something I do.
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting that you started by educating people. This is actually also how I did it. I just took people along on my blockchain journey and started speaking about what I'm learning in blockchain and started explaining it. You have a very impressive, let's say, educational career. You also are writing books. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about this first. Can you tell me like how you started with that? What books have you written already? And who are you addressing with your books? And what are you trying to achieve?
Sure. So it started off with anyone and everyone who's looking to get into blockchain, and that covered people that started from a very small circle with people around me who got to know from my you can say, in very layman terms, you can say they were the people who from my WhatsApp statuses or from WhatsApp, you can say sharing and everything, they got to know that I'm getting into blockchain, and they said that, okay, we have been very interested about this technology. All we know right now at this moment is about is Bitcoin. But we understand that it is much more. There's much more to it than what it meets the eye. So that's why that's where I started teaching people, and I started interacting with them. Then I thought that, okay, there's a lot of dearth of written material available. So I was also at the same time very lucky to be picked by as an author by Asia's largest IT publisher. So they were the ones who published my second book on blockchain. Before that, I did write a book, but that was not in blockchain, which was in my I was at that time I think 17 when I wrote my first book. But
Wow.
that was yeah, that was not blockchain. Of course, I was not in blockchain at that time. That was way back. And then so this publisher called BPP Publications, they are pretty large in Asia. And so they picked that book. They wanted to publish it, and I had a lot of fun writing it. So it is quite a thick book called Secure Chains, of course, available in Amazon, not just in India, but all other Amazon, other countries, Amazons as well. And it covers starting from the very basics, from the cryptography and all other similar perspectives to directly to blockchain and security, etc. So there's a whole lot of ground that book covers. And now my second book is about to come up in about a couple of months maybe, and it is very targeted. It is written with other people, and it is focused on healthcare, blockchain in healthcare, right? I belong to social impact, but I'm yet to write a book on social impact, blockchain in social impact. That's how
Very nice.
it all.
And maybe a question about publishing a book, because I think not many people have the experience. What's the process? Like, how did you get discovered? How long did it take until you published this book? How was the whole process of publishing?
Right. So the process of publishing is, I'll be very honest, very long. There are multiple reasons. It's not just that the publisher is going to take time. They are going to take their sweet time, of course, but they try to help you along the way. But as an author, you need time to write the book. Okay, now there are two ways. One thing is you can, if you are already a published author, which I was not at that time. So I know that, people who are like published authors, they get a foot in the door directly, which is the case with me at this moment. So now I am already like in talks with a couple of publishers who are ready to publish a book, right? If I write, but the time is a constraint. But back then it was 2020, not very way back. It was just in 2020 when my first this second book came, which was on blockchain, secure chains. And but at that time I was still not a published author with a proper publisher, you can say. So for me it was a dainty process. It was like trying to reach out to people and trying to reach out to publishers, and then find references, find all sorts of things that you can do, right? Wherever you can whatever way you can try to fight your way in it. And then finally it caught the attention of a big good publisher, and then they were happy to publish it. And I had my co-authors as well. They were also pretty known in blockchain. So overall it was but still it was a pretty long process. We took more than 1 year to finally get it out in the stores. And yeah, so it's a long process. But most of the time, once the publisher was on board, after that most of the time goes on writing the book, if you've still not written it. But as a new publisher, ideally you would first write a book and then get a publisher. It happened a bit differently in my case, but usually published authors do this thing, that they first contact a publisher and then write a book. But new author should write a book first. I think that's what I did when I wrote my very first book into in I think 2017 or so. Yeah.
Okay, that means now, because you're a published author, it's easier for you. You're more known, and publishers, yeah,
Slightly.
So you can just announce on the internet, I'm writing a new book, and then publishers come and ask you, can we publish it?
I mean that would happen if I was J.K. Rowling, but I'm not. So
Yet.
it doesn't happen. Yeah, oh, okay. But it
Right,
doesn't
the Harry Potter of blockchains.
Okay, but not as such. So that's why it's not that easy. But yeah, you at least have more references, and you can always go back to your original publisher, right? In fact, they have a special agreement with you. Let me share this with you. They have at certain times, they have a special agreement with you that if you bring in a second version to this book, or in a very similar book or something like that, it's written in the agreement, the first right to reject remains with the current publisher. So you have to you ideally publish show it to them. If they reject, then you're supposed to go to some other publisher. So you can take it the other way around. You can always first go to the same publisher who published you earlier, right? But I would be looking at other publishers as well, because just it's an experience, right? And nowadays there are also online publishers. Amazon allows you to publish for free. There are other really other kinds of publishers where you can even self-publish, right? And self-publish is not a bad thing at this moment. You can really tune the marketing efforts according to your will, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, with a traditional publisher, that does not happen. So yeah, pros and cons.
And how it is actually, because in blockchain so many things change quickly.
Yeah, very.
When you write a book in 2020, now it's 2 years later, we have 2022. Right. How many things has changed from the things that you wrote in the book? And do you think it even makes sense to make it a paper book? Maybe it's a better idea to make it a digital, even an online book, so you can edit some parts that change over time. What do you think about that?
Right. That's a very good question. To be honest, Maria, that's a lovely question. That is correct. It also depends, because the kind of book I wrote, it started from the very basics, including cryptography. Cryptography is not going to change, right? It has been there since decades. It's how a lot of systems work, and that's not going to change. And that is more than half of the book, even though the book is on blockchain. But I wanted to just give it all, right? So someone who's starting afresh has everything in front of them in just one book. Might be a bit thick, but still just single book. So it's not going to change. There are certain parts later on when we go to public blockchains. See, at that time, L2s were not popular. I'm not sure if how many L2s were there. Yeah, Polygon was still there and others were still there, but not very popular. NFT use cases were not very popular. So those things either are not there in that book in 2020, or even if they are in some aspect, they would have changed, right? But still, 70-80% of the book is still same, luckily, because those are the kinds of topics I've covered from scratch. But yes, you are very right. That's where the next books, the next book I would be writing, I have plans, all of things in my head, is going to be mostly an ebook or an online book shared somewhere, with all the new ways of putting out a book to the public. And I think that's the way to go. So you're very right about that, because things are very fast in changing.
Yeah. One more question about your books. What changed
Sure.
for you after publishing your first book?
Sure. I'll give you a very special piece of nugget here that I got, that I understood for myself. Your book is actually, and this was told to me, I understood it, and this was told to me by my co-author, who was also very experienced. He told this line, he told this sentence to me that, your book is going to be more like a visiting card for you. Okay. And that's exactly what it has done for me, honestly, because since the time I've written a book, that becomes a visiting card, right? So, you people consider you as a thought leader, right? They think that if you were able to write a book, spend maybe 1 year, is what I'm telling you. This was there in my mind since before, and a lot of process, right? It's a long process. You can say at least it's a 1.5, 2 year process for usually any author to write a book. So when you've spent so much of time, you must have really gone into the subject and become a thought leader. So that becomes a visiting card that, okay, I've published a book, I know this domain, I know entirety of it. So really, so that's what has changed. And honestly, it is how I take it. A book would be a visiting card more, until unless you're writing a novel, like as we were speaking about J.K. Rowling. But unless you're doing that, which is like, going to sell like crazy and all of those stuff, until then, it's going to be largely a visiting card for you. If you're going to meet a prospective client, just hand over them a book, take a
Yeah.
photograph with them. These are
Yeah.
very special gifts that I received from my co-author, and I love sharing them with you here on your challenge.
Okay, so now let's talk about your startup.
Sure.
When did you found the company? What is it called, and what do you do?
Sure. So the startup is called Bru Finance. So Bru is actually an Iceland word from the Iceland language, right? Iceland region, which means bridge, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and why it is very, very meaningful for us is because we have been there live with a live product in the centralized finance domain for the last 2.5 years. And now we are going on to this decentralized finance domain on the public blockchains. And we are not just going from one place to another, we are getting them together. So we're building the bridge. We're bridging the CeFi and DeFi. So you can see our logo, it also shows a bridge between CeFi and DeFi, right? Or you can see, say, a wormhole between CeFi and DeFi. These two are very important, you can say, segments in blockchain technology at this moment, or finance, financial inclusion at this moment. Bridging them together makes a lot of sense. And that's what the name means. So Bru Finance, we started. So first of all, this is our one of the brands, right? And it's a company and a brand. It is a different brand called World, which has been there in the centralized finance markets in the last 2 years. We started back in 2019. So my co-founder has a farming background. He has an agricultural background, not himself, but his forefathers. He has a finance background, by the way. So now he thought that, okay, we know blockchain, and we knew each other. And then he knew the agri domain plus the fintech domain. So, and he found this problem that, okay, warehouse receipt finance, which is basically taking loan against your collateral, which could be any asset, like anything that you put in a warehouse, like agricultural crops, or say, tomorrow it could be gold or anything else, or any other metal. So he saw that this domain is plagued by a lot of banking frauds. And that's where we could come together and apply that. Okay, we know blockchain so well, agricultural field so well, so let's apply this to agriculture and to asset-backed financing. And then we created the platform. And that's what we do. So we allow the farmers to take loans against their crops in real-time speeds and at very low cost. That's what we do.
This is really amazing, and I think your advantage is really having this background in farming and in
Yeah,
blockchain. Like, who has that?
that's
You
yeah,
know,
who has that?
this is such a niche. Can you tell me a little bit of what's the status of your startup right now? What product have you already developed, and what's on your roadmap?
Sure. So as I said, the centralized finance product where we work with banks and government custodians is already live in the last in India since the last 2 years. And we are currently working with 5 banks and other financial, corporations, non-banking financial lenders, etc. In India. And then we also have more than 1,400 custodians, government custodians on our chain, on our blockchain. And with this, we were able to, in the last 2 years itself, we were able to tokenize more than $600 million worth of agricultural crops on the blockchain, right? Which is a permission blockchain. These are crops belonging to these farmers and other kinds of customer categories. And then these are basically tokenized in the form of an NFT and then put on the blockchain. So that's a very good use case, very unique use case. And then the banks can give loan against these NFTs. So yes, you
Can
had a
you
question, I think.
okay, can you explain now the use case from the farmer's perspective?
Yes, sure. So on the other hand, the farmers get access to these NFT receipts. You call them warehouse receipts. Of course, they won't understand NFT. So they get access to these warehouse receipts on their phone, and with one click of a button, they can just request for a loan from any of the banks that are a partner to us and on the platform. Just one click process. Earlier, this used to take 13 to 15 days. They had to run post to pillar at the banks, and took a lot of time, a lot of running here and there. Definitely not from the comfort of their home. All of that has now come down to like a real time, 15-20 minutes maybe, and very low cost loans because of the disintermediation that blockchain can do, right? So that's how farmers are benefited a lot. But just to add to this, why would even farmers use this, right? So farmers, right after harvesting, they can either sell their crops right away in the market. We discourage them from doing that because right after harvesting, not just in India, anywhere, the prices of these crops are at the bottom lowest. On the other hand, once you go through at least 2.5, 3 months, these crops, become at least 25 to 30 to 40 times, not times, but 40% more in price, right? So you earn a lot, and that's in India. In places like Africa, it is around 300%. So 3 times the increase. So why would you not wait for 2.5, 3 months and sell it off in the market to get a much better realizable income? So that's the benefit from the farmers end. And farmers have completely free access to this platform. They don't have to pay us. That's where the social impact angle comes, Maria. And a lot of support we've received from United Nations Development Program, UN Technology Bank, then Google SDG, Microsoft, University of Toronto, and others, including my Forbes 30 under 30 that I got was also in social impact. So this creates a lot of social impact, and we've been really frequently recognized for the social impact area. So that's how it works.
This is really, really amazing, and congratulations on creating such a use case and such social impact. One more question I have about the use case. How do you actually create these NFTs? Or basically you have to do like an inventory of the crops that each farmer has. How is this done?
Yeah. So the farmers have to take the crops physically to the warehouse, of course, and then these are government secured warehouses. The person who's involved there, who's taking care of these things, he basically does an assessment of all these crops, and then in their system creates a receipt, and that receipts get pushed. We are API integrated with them. In a nutshell, it gets pushed automatically to the blockchain, and our smart contracts make it an NFT, and then it's stored on our blockchain. And whenever any other action on it happens, like a bank gives a loan, or or a delivery happens, repayment, any of the actions that happen, they go as new transactions onto our blockchain, and that's how essentially it works.
Okay, that means that you didn't develop a new process in the whole process of what the farmer does. It's the same process what he does. He brings his crops to these government warehouses anyways. It's just the additional step of the worker and these warehouses that creates this NFT, which is the receipt for that.
That's correct. We did not want to change a lot of things which creates a problem for the farmers. They're not very tech savvy. Right?
Yeah, so perfect. Amazing idea. Great.
Yeah, thank you.
So I have one more question that is a little bit outside of the scope of this conversation, but I saw this list. It's from World of Statistics. It's a profile on Twitter apparently, and they posted this list of companies, and they say their CEOs come from India. So it's the CEO of Google, CEO of Microsoft, CEO of Adobe, Twitter, MasterCard, Pepsi, IBM, Nokia, Novartis, many
Yes, endless.
large companies, the CEOs
Yeah,
are Indian. Why?
yeah.
Tell me why.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Maria, to be honest. I think I have an answer for that. The reason is that uh, see, we have been, in India, a lot of people have been in the technology and engineering domain since quite a long time. In India, in fact, it has its own pros and cons, right? You so the moment you're like you've taken your birth, people decide, your parents decide that, okay, let me make him or her an engineer, or let me make him or her a doctor. I mean, come on, who does that, right? Things are changing. By the way, things are changing. The parents of this generation, the people who are becoming parents now, are shifting that perspective definitely a lot. So I'm not sure what it will look like maybe 30-40 years from now, but at this moment, all of the generation that is there, they have been always in studies and very tight cultural perspective since childhood, right? I honestly believe, and I've read about it. In fact, I've read about articles from people like from from the US, who've written on cultures in India and these areas. To be honest, a strong study focused culture has been behind that. And also, we are also very technology focused people, right? You see, Bangalore is called the mini Silicon Valley or something like that, right? So and its a population is also a lot, right? So when we are talking about producing engineers, we're talking about producing millions of engineers a year, right? Or some out of them would be the creme de la creme, and they would definitely, sadly, they many of them go to leave India and go outside. And but there are also plenty who are there in India and run the country, right? So but who go outside, many of them I've seen that are rising to the top right now. I'm not sure about the exact reason, but I think a tight cultural perspective has been the reason.
Great. Thank you for this explanation. I think it completely makes sense, because if your family is supportive and is really pushing you toward an academic career, and they're really focused on making you the best version of an engineer there is, yeah, it makes a lot
Right.
of sense. Yes. Thank you very much, Abhishek, for this interview. It was a pleasure speaking to you and learning from you. Yeah, I hope to see you soon.
Likewise, Maria, thank you so much for being a wonderful and a graceful host. I really look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much.